The nausea hit Daria like a rogue wave, sudden and merciless. She barely made it to the basin before her stomach emptied itself for the third morning in a row. Her hands trembled as she gripped the cold ceramic, her wolf whimpering somewhere deep inside her consciousness, a sound of fear rather than illness. She knew what this meant. Had known for days, really, but had been too terrified to acknowledge it. The memory of that night 3 months ago flooded back unbidden. A territorial gathering at the neutral grounds, too much wine, and a stranger with storm-gray eyes who had looked at her like she was the only wolf in the room. His scent had called to something primal in her, something she'd never experienced before. One night, one perfect, reckless night with a male whose name she'd never learned, who had disappeared before dawn. One night that had changed everything. Daria pressed a hand to her lower abdomen, feeling the subtle change in her body that her wolf senses had already detected, a flutter of life, foreign yet somehow intrinsically part of her. Terror and wonder warred in her chest, making it hard to breathe. "You're with Pup." The voice behind her was ancient, cracked like dried leather. Daria spun to find the pack seer standing in her doorway, milky white eyes fixed on her despite their blindness. Mara had served the Clearwater Pack for over a century, and her prophecies had never been wrong. The old woman's presence in Daria's small cottage sent ice down her spine. I didn't. Daria's words faltered. There was no point in lying. The seer knew. Mara shuffled forward, her gnarled fingers reaching for Daria's face. The touch was cold, papery skin against Daria's flushed cheeks. The seer's eyes rolled back, showing only whites, and her body went rigid. "Oh, child," the words were a whisper of horror. "What have you conceived?" The old woman's fingers tightened, and Daria felt the press of foreign magic against her shields. The seer's gift, reaching, searching. The air in the small cottage grew thick and oppressive. Shadows seemed to lengthen in the corners, and Daria's wolf howled in warning. When Mara's eyes focused again, tears tracked down her weathered cheeks. "The power in this pup." The seer's voice broke. "It's beyond anything I've seen. Ancient, primal. The kind of power that belongs to the first wolves, to the myths and legends." She released Daria's face, stepping back. "It will consume you from within. The vessel cannot contain what you carry. When the pup is born, the release of such power will tear you apart." The words hung in the air like an executioner's blade. "No." Daria's hand flew protectively to her stomach. "There must be a way. Some magic, some ritual. I have looked down every path the future offers." Mara's voice was flat, final. "They all end the same way. The child lives. You die." The cottage door burst open. 3 pack elders stood in the threshold, their expressions carved from stone. Behind them, Daria could see other pack members gathering, their faces a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "Is it true?" Alpha Constantine's voice was a low growl. "You carry a bastard pup? A child conceived outside our bloodline? Outside any sanctioned bond?" Daria's chin lifted despite the fear coursing through her. "I'm pregnant. Yes. With a pup that will kill her," Mara added. And Daria wanted to scream at the old woman's betrayal, and perhaps kill more than just her. The power I sensed, it could destabilize the balance between all packs. It could draw attention we cannot afford. Constantine's eyes flashed gold, his wolf rising to the surface. "You've broken pack law, Daria. Conceived with an outsider without permission, without witnessing, without ensuring proper bloodlines. And now you carry something dangerous." He stepped into the cottage, and his presence filled the small space with crushing authority. "The Clearwater Pack cannot harbor this threat. She's one of us." Daria's voice came out stronger than she's felt. "I've served this pack my entire life. My parents died defending our territory. You can't." You are exiled. The words were iron. Final. You have until sunset to leave our lands. If you're found here after dark, you'll be treated as a rogue. The other elders nodded their agreement, and through the open door, Daria saw her packmates turn away. Not one of them met her eyes. Not one of them spoke in her defense. She was alone. The forest blurred around Daria as she ran, her wolf form eating up the miles between her former home and where? She had no destination, no plan, just the desperate need to put distance between herself and the pack that had cast her out like garbage. Her paws pounded against the earth, but exhaustion was catching up with her. She'd been running for hours, pausing only to shift back and gather what few supplies she'd managed to grab. A single bag with spare clothes, a water skin, and a handful of dried meat that would last perhaps 2 days if she rationed. Carefully. The prophecy echoed in her mind with every heartbeat. You die, you die, you die. Her wolf whimpered, confused by the protective instinct warring with the survival instinct. The pup was part of them, carried within them, and yet it was also a death sentence. How could they protect something that would kill them? Daria stumbled, her legs giving out. She shifted mid-fall, hitting the ground hard in her human form. Pain lanced through her shoulder, but it was nothing compared to the bone-deep exhaustion that suddenly overwhelmed her. When had she last eaten? Yesterday morning, before the seer had come. She lay on the forest floor, leaves and pine needles pressing into her cheek, and felt the tears come. Great, heaving sobs that shook her entire body. She was going to die. Her pup might die too if she couldn't find shelter, food, safety. What kind of mother was she? What kind of wolf? I'm sorry, she whispered to the life growing inside her. I'm so sorry. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that bled through the canopy above. Daria dragged herself to sitting, then to standing. Her legs shook, threatening to give out again. She recognized the scent markers on the trees around her. She'd reached neutral territory, the unclaimed lands between pack borders. But where could she go? No pack would take in a pregnant rogue with a death prophecy hanging over her head. Even if she could survive in the wilderness, what about the pup? What about the birth? Through the trees ahead, she caught a glimpse of something that made her heart stutter. Different scent markers. Stronger. These trees were marked by someone with immense power, an alpha whose presence seemed to saturate the very air. The royal lands. She'd somehow made it to the border of the Alpha King's territory. Daria laughed, a broken sound that bordered on hysteria. Of course. Of all the places her panicked flight could have led her, she'd ended up at the doorstep of the most powerful wolf in all the kingdoms, the Alpha King who was said to have ruled for over 2 centuries, who had crushed rebellions and unified territories through sheer dominance. He'd execute her for trespassing before she could even explain. The world tilted, and Daria realized she was falling again. This time, she didn't have the strength to catch herself. The ground rushed up to meet her, and darkness crowded the edges of her vision. Her last coherent thought was a prayer to the moon goddess she wasn't sure was listening. Please, if I must die, at least let my pup live. Then there was nothing but the dark. Awareness returned in fragments, softness beneath her, warmth surrounding her, the scent of pine and winter storms, and something wild that made her wolf stir with interest despite her exhaustion. Daria's eyes fluttered open to find herself staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. Stone arches soared above her, carved with intricate patterns that seemed to move in the flickering candlelight. She was in a bed, an enormous bed, with sheets softer than anything she'd ever felt against her skin. You're awake. The voice was deep, resonant, and did something strange to her insides. Don't try to move too quickly. You've been unconscious for hours. She turned her head, ignoring the advice, and found herself looking at the most beautiful male she'd ever seen. No, not just beautiful. Devastating. He sat in a chair beside the bed, his frame too large for the furniture, all coiled strength and predatory grace. Dark hair fell across his forehead, and those eyes, storm-gray eyes that she recognized. You, Daria breathed, shock stealing her voice. The stranger from 3 months ago, the male whose name she'd never learned. He was here, watching her with an intensity that made her skin flush and her wolf sit up and take notice. You remember. There was something dark and satisfied in his tone. He leaned forward, and she caught his scent properly now, the same scent that had driven her wild that night, but there was something more to it. Something that called to her very soul. Good, because I certainly never forgot you. His eyes flashed gold, wolf rising to the surface. I searched for you after that night, combed through every pack territory within 100 miles. When your scent disappeared, I thought you'd deliberately hidden from me. I didn't know. Daria's voice was hoarse. You left before dawn. I never even knew your name. Maxim. He said it like a confession. And you're Daria. I know that now. I know a lot of things now. The way he said her name sent shivers down her spine. But reality crashed back, drowning the warmth. She sat up despite her body's protests, and her hand immediately went to her stomach. The slight curve was still there. Relief made her dizzy. How did I get here? Where is here? You collapsed at my border. Maxim's expression shifted, concern bleeding through. I was on patrol, something I rarely do personally anymore, but I felt drawn to that area, like something was calling me. His eyes dropped to her hand on her stomach, and his jaw tightened. When I found you, I knew. The scent was unmistakable. You're carrying my pup. The words hung between them, not a question, a statement of absolute fact. I'm also dying. Daria forced the words out, needing him to understand. There was a prophecy, the pup I carry, the pup we made. It's too powerful. When it's born, the power will kill me. She expected shock, horror, perhaps rejection. What she didn't expect was for Maxim to move with preternatural speed, suddenly kneeling beside the bed and taking her face in his hands with surprising gentleness. No. The word was a command, an alpha order backed by centuries of absolute authority. I have searched for you for 3 months. I have wondered and hoped and cursed myself for not securing your name, your pack, anything that would lead me back to you. And now I find you on my doorstep, carrying my child, marked by death. His thumb stroked her cheeks, and the touch made her wolf purr despite everything. No, Daria, I will not accept that. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. His eyes burned into hers. You're my mate. The moon goddess herself couldn't have made it more clear. That night wasn't just passion or coincidence. It was fate. And I don't care what prophecy some seer spoke, I will not lose you. Mate. The word detonated in Daria's chest. That's what she'd felt that night. The pull, the rightness, the sense of coming home. She'd been too inexperienced, too naive to recognize it. You're the Alpha King, she whispered, pieces clicking into place. The power she'd sensed in him, the authority, the age in his eyes despite his youthful appearance. I am. Maxim's hand slid from her face to her shoulders, steadying her. And I'm telling you right now, before the moon goddess and every wolf in my kingdom, I will find a way to save you, both of you. His hand moved to cover hers on her stomach, and the touch sent a jolt of electricity through her. If death must take someone to bring our pup into this world, it will have to go through me first. Tears blurred Daria's vision. You can't mean that. You don't even know me. I know enough. His voice softened, and he leaned his forehead against hers. I know you're brave enough to face exile alone rather than abort your pup. I know you're strong enough to run for miles while pregnant and exhausted. I know that when you're frightened, you protect rather than flee. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. And I know that the moon goddess doesn't grant second chances lightly. I will not waste this one. Fragile hope unfurled in Daria's chest, terrifying in its intensity. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this powerful male, this alpha king, could somehow defy prophecy itself. But hope was dangerous when death was certain. "We have time," Maxim continued, reading the doubt in her expression. "Time to research, to consult with every healer and witch and wise woman in the kingdoms. Time to find an answer." He stood, but kept her hand in his. "You're safe here, Daria. In my territory, under my protection. Nothing will touch you or our pup, I swear it." As if in response to his words, Daria felt a flutter in her abdomen, the first real movement of the life growing within her. Her breath caught, and Maxim's eyes widened. "Did you feel that?" she whispered. "I felt something." Wonder crossed his features. Power. Even now I can sense it. The same power that would kill her. But looking at Maxim, at the determination carved into every line of his face, Daria allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt since the seer's pronouncement. Hope. The first 3 days in the castle felt like a dream, or perhaps a beautiful lie Daria was too afraid to believe. Maxim had given her a suite of rooms that overlooked the eastern gardens, where dawn painted the flowers in shades of gold and rose. The chambers were larger than her entire cottage had been, with a bed that could fit 5 wolves comfortably, a bathing room with hot water that flowed from carved stone spouts, and windows so tall she could stand in them without ducking. But what struck her most was that Maxim never left her alone for long. He appeared each morning with breakfast, carried on trays by servants who bowed and called her my lady, as if she were someone important. He stayed through the meals, asking about how she'd slept, whether the pup had moved again, if she needed anything at all. Then he'd coax her into walks through the gardens, his hand steady at her elbow, his presence a constant warmth at her side. "You don't have to do this," Daria said on the third morning as they walked a path lined with late-blooming roses. The air was crisp with approaching autumn, and she'd wrapped herself in a shawl Maxim had procured from somewhere. "I'm sure you have a kingdom to run. I have advisors who are perfectly capable of handling daily matters." Maxim's fingers traced idle patterns on her arm through the fabric. "And nothing is more important than ensuring you're comfortable and safe." The words should have reassured her. Instead, they made her chest ache with a longing she didn't want to name. This couldn't last. She was a low-born wolf with a death sentence, and he was an alpha king who had ruled for 2 centuries. Whatever he felt now, obligation, perhaps, or possessiveness over the pup, it couldn't be real. The mate bond whispered otherwise, a golden thread she could feel connecting them, growing stronger each day. It terrified her. "Tell me about your pack," Maxim said, guiding her to a bench beneath a willow tree. He sat close enough that their thighs touched. "Before the exile, what was your life like?" Daria's throat tightened. "Ordinary. I worked in the pack gardens, helped with harvests. My parents died when I was young, a border skirmish with rogues. After that, I just existed, served the pack, kept my head down, tried not to draw attention. And yet, you went to a territorial gathering alone." There was no judgment in his voice, only curiosity. The pack required representatives. No one else wanted to go. She looked down at her hands, remembering that night. "I thought maybe I could be someone different for just one evening, someone brave, someone who didn't fade into the background. You succeeded." Maxim's hand covered hers. "You were the most captivating woman in the room. I couldn't look away from you." Heat flooded her cheeks. "You're an alpha king. You could have any female?" "I don't want any female." His voice was low, intense. "I want my mate. I want you, Daria." The words hit like a physical blow, stealing her breath. She turned to find him watching her with those storm-gray eyes, and the hunger in them made her wolf rise to the surface, eager and wanting. "This is a mistake," she whispered, but she didn't pull away when he leaned closer. "I'm going to die, Maxim. Getting attached will only hurt. More when we will find a way." His hand cupped her face, thumb stroking her cheekbone. But even if we didn't, even if we only had these few months, would you really choose to spend them alone, denying what's between us? She wanted to say yes, wanted to protect herself from the inevitable pain, but the mate bond sang between them, and her wolf whined with need, and she was so tired of being alone. "I'm afraid," she admitted, the confession barely audible. "So am I." The vulnerability in his voice undid her. "I've ruled alone for decades, Daria. I stopped hoping for a mate centuries ago. And now that I've found you, the thought of losing you—" His jaw clenched. "It's the only thing that's frightened me in a very long time." The honesty broke through her walls. Daria leaned into his touch, closing the distance between them. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be someone's mate. Neither do I." A smile tugged at his lips. "We'll figure it out together." When he kissed her, it was nothing like their first night together. That had been fire and desperation and wild need. This was gentle, reverent, a promise made mouth to mouth. His lips moved against hers with careful tenderness, asking rather than taking, and when her lips parted on a sigh, he deepened the kiss slowly. Heat pooled in her belly, different from before. This wasn't just desire, it was connection, recognition, rightness. Her wolf surged forward, pressing against her skin, wanting to mark him, claim him, bind him to them forever. And then the pup moved. Not the gentle flutter she'd felt before, but a surge of power that made her gasp against Maxim's mouth. Energy rippled through her body, warm and electric, and she felt the mate bond flare brilliant gold in her mind's eye. Maxim pulled back, eyes wide. What was that? The pup. Daria's hand flew to her stomach, feeling the life within pulse with unusual strength. I think it felt the bond. Felt us. His hand joined hers, and when their palms touched over the slight swell of her belly, the power surged again. This time, Daria caught an impression, not words, but emotion, recognition, approval, joy. Their pup was happy they'd found each other. Tears blurred her vision. How can something so powerful be so dangerous? Maybe it's not. Maxim's voice was thoughtful. Maybe the prophecy is incomplete. Or maybe... He trailed off, expression shifting to determination. "We'll find answers, Daria. I swear it." She wanted to believe him. Sitting here in the golden morning light, his arms around her and their pup responding to their bond, she almost could. The throne room doors burst open with a crash that echoed off the vaulted ceiling. Daria looked up from the book she'd been reading, a text on ancient wolf magic that Maxim had brought her, to find guards rushing into the chamber where she'd been resting. Maxim appeared seconds later, his expression dark as a thunderhead. "Stay here," he commanded, but there was fear beneath the authority. "Lock the doors behind me. What's happening?" "Your former pack has arrived." His voice was tight with barely controlled rage. "Alpha Constantine is at my gates demanding an audience." Ice flooded Daria's veins. "He's come to take me back. He won't touch you." Maxime gripped her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I promise you, Daria, he won't lay a hand on you." But as he strode from the room, his wolf visible in every movement, Daria felt the fragile peace of the past week shatter like glass. She should have known it couldn't last. Minutes dragged into hours. Daria paced the chamber, her wolf agitated and restless. She could hear raised voices echoing through the castle corridors. Maxim's thunderous bass and Constantine's harsh growl. The words were indistinct, but the fury was unmistakable. When the door finally opened again, she spun to find not Maxime, but a woman she'd never seen before. Tall and elegant, with silver threading through her dark hair, the stranger moved with the fluid grace of a powerful wolf. Behind her, two more figures entered, a man and woman dressed in formal black, their scent unfamiliar and unsettling. "You must be Daria." The silver-haired woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. I'm Counselor Vera. These are representatives from the Blackthorn family. We've come to discuss your situation. Warning bells rang in Daria's mind. Where's Maxim? Occupied with your former alpha. Vera moved closer, and something about her scent made Daria's wolf bristle. The Blackthorns have brought information you need to hear. Information about your pup. The male Blackthorn stepped forward, producing a scroll from his coat. Ancient texts reference a prophecy, a child of unprecedented power who will shift the balance of all packs. Your pup matches every description. His eyes gleamed. Such power cannot be allowed to fall into just any hands. My pup isn't a tool. Daria backed toward the wall, hand protective over her stomach. You can't have... The window exploded inward. Glass shattered across the floor as a massive gray wolf launched through the opening. Daria screamed, throwing herself aside as the beast landed where she'd been standing. More wolves poured through the windows. 3, 4, 5 of them, all with the same coordinated precision. Assassination. Daria's shift came instinctively, bones cracking and reforming in seconds. Her rust-red wolf was smaller than the attackers, but maternal instinct made her vicious. She met the first wolf with snapping jaws, catching its shoulder and tearing deep. The chamber door crashed open. Maxim's roar shook the very stones of the castle as he charged in, already shifted to his massive black wolf form. He was bigger than any wolf Daria had ever seen, his power palpable in the air, like an approaching storm. What followed was carnage. Maxim moved with lethal efficiency, his jaws crushing the throat of one attacker before throwing the body aside to engage the next. Guards poured in behind him, engaging the other wolves, but it was clear who dominated the fight. The Alpha King was terrifying in his fury. One wolf lunged for Daria while she was distracted. She turned too late, knowing she couldn't dodge. Maxim intercepted mid-leap, catching the attacker in mid-air and slamming it to the ground hard enough to crack stone. His jaws closed around its neck with finality, and he didn't let go until the wolf stopped moving. Then he was between Daria and the remaining threats, hackles raised, teeth bared in a snarl that promised death to anyone who came closer. His message was clear: through me, or not at all. The surviving attackers fled. The Blackthorn representatives were gone, vanished during the chaos. Only Counselor Vera remained, pressed against the far wall with wide eyes. Traitor. Maxim shifted back to human form, gloriously naked and spattered with blood. His voice was death itself. You led them here, through my castle, past my guards, directly to her. I didn't. Vera's protest died when Maxim crossed the distance faster than thought, his hand closing around her throat. Don't insult me with lies. Power radiated from him, the full weight of an Alpha King's dominance. You will tell me everything, or you will die screaming. Daria shifted back, her own body trembling with adrenaline. She'd seen Maxim gentle and tender and careful. This was something else entirely, the apex predator, the warrior who had unified kingdoms through strength. He was magnificent and horrifying in equal measure. The Blackthorns, they offered wealth, position, Vera gasped out. They said the pup was too important to leave in your hands, that you'd grown soft, that you'd put a low-born female before the good of all wolves. And you believed them. Maxim's grip tightened. You betrayed your king for coin and the promise of power. Please, the only reason you're alive is that I need you to send a message. He released her, letting her collapse to the floor. Tell the Blackthorns and anyone else who thinks to threaten my mate. I will hunt them to extinction. Tell them the Alpha King has awakened, and I am done being merciful. Guards dragged Vera away, and then Maxim was turning to Daria, his expression transforming from lethal to concerned in a heartbeat. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? I'm fine. But her voice shook, and when he reached for her, she fell into his arms. You could have been killed. If there had been more of them, it would have made no difference. His arms tightened around her. I told you, Daria, nothing will touch you. I meant it. She believed him now, had seen the proof in blood and violence. But as he held her in the ruined chamber, surrounded by bodies and broken glass, a new fear crystallized. She wasn't just carrying a powerful pup, she was carrying a prize that others would kill to possess. And they would keep coming, waves of enemies, until someone succeeded, unless Maxime destroyed them all first. I'm sorry, she whispered, against his chest. I brought this to your door. No. He tilted her face up, forcing her to meet his eyes. They brought it to themselves. This kingdom has been too peaceful for too long. They forgot what I'm capable of. His thumb traced her lower lip. Let them remember. Let them all remember why I'm called the Alpha King. The promise in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, some primal part of her responded with fierce satisfaction. This was her mate, powerful enough to protect her and their pup, dominant enough to face down any threat, and he had chosen her. Daria pulled him down into a kiss that tasted of blood and desperation and defiant hope. Tomorrow would bring more enemies, more dangers, but tonight, in his arms, she felt safer than she had since the prophecy was spoken. The castle went into lockdown, guards doubled at every entrance, patrols tripled, and Maxime moved Daria to his personal chambers, a suite of rooms at the castle's heart, protected by ancient wards and thick stone walls. You'll stay here, he said, guiding her through rooms that dwarfed even the generous quarters she'd had before. With me. I'm not letting you out of my sight again. Daria should have protested, should have argued about propriety or proper courtship, or the dozen other reasons why sleeping in the Alpha King's rooms was scandalous. But she'd nearly died today, and her pup with her. Propriety could go to hell. Okay, she said simply, and watched surprise and relief flash across his face. That night, as she lay in his massive bed, wearing a nightgown someone had fetched from her old rooms, Maxim sat beside her fully clothed, keeping watch like a sentinel. You should sleep, she told him. You've been awake for 20 hours. I'll sleep when I know you're safe. I am safe. She caught his hand, pulling him toward the pillows. Come here, please. He hesitated, then complied, stretching out beside her on top of the covers. In the candlelight, his face showed the strain of the day, the fury and fear he'd held in check since the attack. Talk to me, Daria said softly. You promised we'd face this together. That means the fear, too. For a long moment, he was silent. Then, when I saw those wolves coming through the window, when I realized they were after you. His voice roughened. I've been in countless battles, Daria. I've faced death more times than I can count. But the terror I felt in that moment, the thought that I might lose you before we'd even begun, it was worse than anything I've experienced in 2 centuries. The confession made her chest tight. She shifted closer, resting her head on his shoulder. You saved me. You'll always save me, won't you? Until my last breath. His arm came around her, holding her against his side. They can send armies and I'll tear through them all. I will not let them take you. The vehemence in his voice should have worried her. Instead, it kindled something warm and fierce in her chest. This was what it meant to be someone's mate, to be protected, cherished, fought for with every ounce of strength they possessed. Maxim? She tilted her face up to find him already watching her. I'm starting to believe you might actually save us. The pup and me. I will. Not a hope, a certainty. And I'm starting to believe that maybe... She took a shaky breath. Maybe I love you. I know it's only been days, and I shouldn't feel this much, but... His mouth on hers stopped the words. This kiss was different from the gentle one in the garden. Hungrier, more desperate, layered with everything they'd been through today. When he pulled back, his eyes burned gold. I've loved you since that first night, he said roughly. Since before I knew your name. The moon goddess marked you as mine, and I would burn the world down before I let you go. Tears spilled down Daria's cheeks, but they weren't tears of grief this time. "Show me," she whispered. "Show me I'm yours." His control cracked. Maxime kissed her again, deeper this time, his tongue sliding against hers as his hands roamed her body through the thin nightgown. Daria arched into him, her wolf singing with need, the mate bond begging for completion. "Are you sure?" He broke the kiss long enough to ask, his hand splayed over her still flat belly. The pup. The pup wants this too. She could feel the life inside her responding to their connection. That same pulse of approval from before. "Please, Maxim, make me yours completely." He didn't need to be asked twice. What followed was different from their first joining, slower, more deliberate, heavy with emotion neither of them could speak. When he entered her, the mate bond blazed between them, and Daria felt something inside her shift and lock into place. "Mine," her wolf breathed in satisfaction. "Ours." They moved together, finding rhythm easily despite the months apart, and when pleasure crested over them both, Daria felt his teeth at her throat. The mating mark, the permanent claim that would tell all wolves she belonged to him. The pain was bright and brief, immediately overwhelmed by euphoria as the mate bond snapped fully into place. For a moment she could feel everything he felt. The love, the fierce protectiveness, the determination that bordered on obsession. And beneath it all, a bone-deep loneliness that spanned decades, finally soothed by her presence. Then his mark on her neck began to glow with soft golden light, and suddenly she was seeing a vision, herself in this same bed, but her belly round and full with late pregnancy. Maxim beside her, his hand on her stomach as the pup kicked. Beyond the window, dawn breaking over a peaceful kingdom. She was alive. They were together. The future was bright and possible. The vision faded as Maxim collapsed beside her, pulling her into his arms. "Did you see?" His voice was awed. "Did you see it, Daria? A future where I survive." Her hand found his mark on her throat, feeling the raised skin already healing. Was it real? Or just what we want? "To see? Does it matter?" He pressed a kiss to her hair. "We have something to fight for now, a future we both saw. That has to mean something." Daria closed her eyes, feeling the pup settle contentedly within her and the mate bond humming with satisfaction. Tomorrow would bring more threats, more danger. But tonight, she had this. Her mate's arms around her, his mark on her skin, and a vision of hope that maybe, just maybe, she would live to raise their child. She'd been wrong before. Hope wasn't dangerous when death was certain. Hope was the only thing that made survival possible. The dungeons beneath the Blackthorn stronghold reeked of despair and old blood. Daria had lost track of how many hours, or perhaps days, she'd been chained to the cold stone wall, the iron manacles around her wrists inscribed with runes that pulsed with sickly green light. Dark magic. The kind that suppressed her wolf, made the mate bond feel distant and muffled, like shouting through water. But they couldn't suppress everything. The pup moved within her, restless and growing stronger with each passing hour. The power she'd felt before, the ancient magic that had terrified the seer, now surged in waves that made her gasp. Each pulse was more intense than the last, and with each one, something strange happened. Instead of pain, she felt change. The Blackthorn matriarch had visited twice, her cold eyes assessing Daria like livestock. "The child will be magnificent," she'd said, running one finger along Daria's swollen belly. "And you'll die bringing it into the world, just as prophesied. But don't worry, we'll raise your pup as our own. Such power deserves proper guidance." Now, alone in the darkness, Daria felt tears track down her cheeks. Not for herself. She'd accepted death the moment the seer had spoken the prophecy. But for her pup, who would grow up without knowing love, twisted into a weapon by wolves who saw only power to be exploited. And for Maxim, who had promised to save her and would blame himself forever for failing. "I'm sorry," she whispered through the mate bond, not knowing if he could even hear her through the dark magic. "I'm so sorry." The pup kicked hard and power exploded through her body. Daria screamed as energy flooded her veins like liquid fire. This was different from before, not a gentle pulse but a tidal wave. Her wolf, suppressed by the runes, suddenly roared to the surface with unprecedented strength. The manacles glowed brighter, fighting to contain her, but the pup's power was feeding her wolf, amplifying it, transforming it into something new. And then understanding crashed over her with blinding clarity. The prophecy. The vessel cannot contain what you carry. Everyone had assumed it meant her body would tear apart during birth, unable to handle the pup's power during that crucial moment. But that wasn't it at all. The pup's power was too great for her current vessel, for the weak, low-born wolf she'd been. The child wasn't going to kill her during birth. The power would destroy her slowly during pregnancy unless she became strong enough to contain it. Unless she evolved. "That's it, isn't it?" Daria gasped, pressing her chained hands to her belly. "You're not trying to hurt me. You're trying to help me, make me strong enough to carry you." The pup responded with a surge of warmth, and suddenly Daria could feel her child's consciousness brushing against her own. Not words, but emotion and intent. Love, protection, evolution. Her pup was trying to save her the only way it knew how. "Okay," Daria whispered, making a choice that felt like stepping off a cliff. "Okay, baby, I'm done fighting you. I'm done being afraid. If you need me to be stronger, then make me stronger." She stopped resisting the power flooding through her, stopped trying to contain it or push it down or protect herself from it. Instead, she opened herself completely, letting the ancient magic flow freely through her body and merge with her wolf. The pain was excruciating. Her bones felt like they were being reforged from the inside out. Her muscles burned and rebuilt themselves. Her senses sharpened until she could hear heartbeats 3 floors above, smell the fear of guards stationed outside her cell, taste the metallic tang of dark magic in the air. The manacles around her wrists glowed brilliant white, fighting desperately to contain her, but the power kept building. And building. And building. When Daria opened her eyes, the world looked different, sharper, clearer. The darkness of the dungeon was no obstacle. She could see every stone, every crack in the walls, every rust spot on her chains. Her wolf felt massive inside her skin, coiled and ready, no longer suppressed by the pitiful runes that had once contained her. She was no longer the frightened, low-born wolf who'd fled into exile. She was something new, something powerful, something worthy of carrying a pup that would reshape the world. Daria pulled at the manacles, and they shattered like pottery. The door burst open, guards flooding in with weapons drawn. "The prisoner is—" The lead guard's words died as he saw her standing free, power radiating from her in visible waves. Her shift came fast and fluid, bones rearranging in seconds without the usual pain. Her rust-red wolf was larger now, nearly the size of an alpha, her fur shimmering with threads of gold that glowed in the darkness. The pup's power had marked her, transformed her, made her into a vessel strong enough to contain impossible magic. The guards never stood a chance. Daria moved with speed she'd never possessed before, her enhanced wolf tearing through them like paper. Claws that had once struggled to pierce thick hide now shredded armor. Jaws that had been merely adequate now crushed bone with ease. She wasn't fighting like a desperate Omega anymore. She was fighting like a queen defending her young, and nothing would stand between her and freedom. More guards poured into the corridor, but she carved through them, following the mate bond that now burned clear and bright in her chest. The dark magic couldn't suppress it anymore. Her transformation had burned through those barriers like morning sun through fog. She could feel Maxim now, feel his rage and terror and determination as he fought his way toward her from the opposite direction. He was coming for her, had never stopped coming for her. "I'm alive," she sent through the bond with all her strength. "I'm fighting my way to you." His response hit her like a physical blow. Relief and fury and love so intense it nearly staggered her. "Stay alive. I'm almost there." Daria burst through another door into a larger chamber and found herself face to face with the Blackthorn matriarch and a dozen elite guards. The older woman's eyes widened at the sight of her. Impossible. The suppression runes should have... The matriarch cut herself off, understanding dawning. "You've bonded with the power, accepted it." Her expression shifted to something hungry and calculating. "Even better. We won't have to wait for the birth after all. I'll just take what we want now." The matriarch's hands began to glow with dark magic, weaving a spell that made the air itself feel wrong. Daria's enhanced senses screamed danger, and she lunged forward just as the spell released. Maxime had seen battlefields that haunted him for decades, had witnessed atrocities that would break lesser wolves. But nothing compared to the terror of feeling Daria's presence suddenly muffled by dark magic, the mate bond going dim like a candle in a storm. The Blackthorn traitor had died screaming, but it hadn't been enough. Maxim wanted blood, wanted to tear apart every single wolf who had touched his mate, who had dared to steal her from his protection. "My lord, the forces are assembled." His captain's voice was carefully neutral, but Maxim could smell the fear beneath. Good. His wolves needed to remember what he was capable of. The witch advisor, Celine, approached with the reverence one showed a ticking bomb. "Your Majesty, I may have found a way to break through the concealment magic hiding her location, but..." She hesitated. "But?" The word came out as a growl, and several nearby guards flinched. "It will require a sacrifice of life force. Your life force. Years of your existence traded to pierce their dark magic and restore the mate bond fully." Celine's ancient eyes met his. "It could take decades off your life, and there's no way to know exactly how much until the spell is cast." "Do it." Maxime didn't hesitate. "Your Majesty, consider." "I said do it!" Power rolled off him in waves, making the stone beneath their feet tremble. "What good are centuries of life if I lose her? What's the point of existing if my mate and child die while I stand here debating costs?" Celine bowed her head. "As you command." The ritual took place in the castle courtyard, Maxim kneeling within a circle of blood and bone while Celine chanted in the old tongue. Pain lanced through him as the spell took hold, feeling like hooks dragging something vital from deep within his chest. His vision grayed at the edges, and distantly he felt years, decades being ripped away. But then the mate bond blazed back to life, clear and strong and leading north like an arrow. And through it he felt Daria's presence, alive, afraid, fighting. "Stay alive," he sent with everything he had. "I'm almost there." Maxime rose from the circle, feeling the weight of what he'd traded. His reflection in a nearby window showed new silver threading through his dark hair, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. Celine staggered backward, her own face pale. 80 years, she whispered. The spell took 80 years. Cheap. Maxim shifted mid-stride, his massive black wolf form exploding into existence. His howl shook the castle walls, a sound of fury and promise that echoed for miles. "I'm coming, Daria! Hold on!" He ran. His elite guard followed, but Maxim quickly outpaced them, following the bond with single-minded focus. The Blackthorn stronghold was 50 miles north, but he covered the distance in under 2 hours, his enhanced alpha speed eating up the terrain. Every second felt like an eternity. Every minute she was in their hands was a minute too long. The stronghold came into view, a fortress built into the mountainside, crawling with guards. Maxime didn't slow, didn't strategize, didn't care about tactics or proper assault plans. He crashed through the front gate like a natural disaster. Guards tried to stop him and died. Reinforcements poured out, and he tore through them without breaking stride. His jaws crushed throats, his claws eviscerated. He was a force of nature, unstoppable and terrible, the Alpha King at his most primal and lethal. Nothing mattered except reaching her. He followed the bond deeper into the stronghold, leaving a trail of bodies in his wake. Dimly, he heard his guards catching up, engaging the Blackthorn forces, but it was background noise. His entire world had narrowed to one purpose: Daria. And then, through the bond, he felt her power surge. Maxime skidded to a stop in a blood-slicked corridor, shock penetrating even his battle fury. The presence he felt through the mate bond was different, stronger, fiercer, burning with power that rivaled his own. What had happened to her? "I'm alive." Her voice came through the bond, clear as bells. "I'm fighting my way to you." Relief nearly drove him to his knees. She was alive, she was fighting, and she was magnificent. Maxim threw back his head and howled, a sound of triumph and challenge. "Stay alive, I'm almost there." Then he was running again, following the bond that now blazed like the sun, leading him toward the center of the stronghold where he could feel her presence burning bright and fierce. When he burst through the final door, the sight that greeted him stole what remained of his breath. Daria in her wolf form, larger than before, her rust-red fur threaded with gold, moving with lethal grace as she fought the Blackthorn matriarch. Dark magic swirled through the chamber, but Daria dodged and weaved, enhanced reflexes keeping her ahead of the deadly spells. She was holding her own against one of the most powerful witches in the kingdoms, his mate. His fierce, incredible mate. The Blackthorn matriarch saw him and shrieked in rage. "You're too late, Alpha King! The power is mine for the—" Maxim's jaws closed around her throat before she could finish, and her dark magic dissolved into nothing. Silence fell. Bodies littered the chamber, guards who had tried to stop Daria. The matriarch collapsed, and Maxim shifted back to human form, his eyes finding Daria's wolf. She shifted a moment later, her human form showing the same golden threads in her hair, the same power radiating from her skin. The slight swell of her belly remained, their pup safe within her. Maxim. His name was a sob, and then she was running, and he was meeting her halfway, catching her in his arms and holding her like he'd never let go. "I thought I'd lost you." His voice broke on the words. "When the bond went dark, I thought, I'm here. I'm alive." She pulled back just enough to cup his face. "The prophecy was wrong, or we interpreted it wrong. The pup wasn't going to kill me during birth, it was transforming me throughout the pregnancy, making me strong enough to survive carrying such power." Tears streamed down her face. Our baby was trying to save me all along. Maxim kissed her desperately, tasting salt and relief and the lingering tang of ancient magic. Through their bond, he felt the pup, their daughter he somehow knew, content and settled. Her power no longer wild and dangerous, but contained within a vessel finally strong enough to hold it. "I traded 80 years of my life to find you," he told her, pressing his forehead to hers. "I'd trade 800 more without hesitation. You foolish, wonderful male." Daria's laugh was watery. "I love you. I love you so much, and I'm not going to die, Maxim. We're going to raise our daughter together." The mate bond blazed between them, amplified by the pup's magic, and Maxim felt something lock into place. A three-way connection between him, Daria, and their unborn child. Their daughter's power flowed through the circuit they created, no longer a danger, but a gift, stabilizing as it was shared among all three of them. Celine appeared in the doorway, taking in the scene with wide eyes. "The prophecy," she breathed. "It's broken. The power that would have destroyed her is now sustained by all three of you. The mate bond, enhanced by the child's magic, creates a perfect balance. We did it." Daria sagged against Maxim, exhaustion finally catching up. "We actually did it. You did it." Maxim lifted her into his arms, cradling her carefully. You were strong enough to accept the power, brave enough to stop fighting it. You saved yourself, Daria. And our pup. As he carried her from the chamber, his guards securing the stronghold behind them, Maxim felt something he hadn't experienced in his long life. Absolute certainty that the future would be everything they'd hoped for. The vision they'd shared after completing the mate bond would come true. They would survive this. Together. 4 months later, Daria woke to the first contractions just before dawn. Maxim. She shook his shoulder, feeling the now familiar surge of their daughter's power responding to her mother's stress. It's time. He was awake instantly, his hand going to her belly. Through the bond, she felt his spike of fear and excitement. I'll get the healers. Don't leave. Her grip on his arm tightened as another contraction hit. Stay with me, please, always. He climbed back into bed beside her, holding her through the pain. I'm not going anywhere. The birth took hours. Celine and 3 royal healers attended, but it was Maxim's presence that kept Daria anchored as their daughter fought her way into the world. Each contraction brought a surge of the pup's power, but instead of destroying her as the old prophecy had predicted, Daria felt her transformed body channel and contain it easily. She was strong enough now. They all were. The 3-way bond distributing the massive power among them, keeping it stable and safe. When their daughter finally entered the world, her first cry was robust and healthy, and Daria sobbed with relief as the healers placed the infant on her chest. Tiny but perfect, with a shock of dark hair and eyes that already showed hints of storm gray. She's beautiful, Maxime whispered, his hand trembling as he touched their daughter's head. You're both alive. You're both perfect. Through the bond, Daria felt his overwhelming love and awe. She'd survived. Their daughter was healthy. The future stretched before them, bright with possibility. Luna, Daria said, looking down at the infant who watched them with unusual alertness. Her name is Luna. That evening, as sunset painted the sky in shades of amber and rose, Maxim carried Daria to the balcony of their chambers. Luna slept peacefully in her arms, the pup's power settled and calm, no longer a threat, but simply part of who she was. Below, the kingdom spread out in all directions, their kingdom now to rule together. Word had already spread of Luna's birth and Daria's survival. The packs that had threatened them either sued for peace or fled. Even Daria's former pack had sent emissaries begging forgiveness and offering loyalty. What are you thinking? Maxim asked, his arm around her waist. That I should have died. Daria looked up at him, seeing the silver in his hair that marked what he'd sacrificed to save her. That by all rights, I should be dead and you should be alone, raising our daughter without me. But you're not. He turned her to face him, careful of the infant between them. You're here. You're mine. And we have centuries ahead of us to raise our daughter and rule this kingdom together. Centuries, Daria repeated, still marveling at it. The transformation had done more than make her strong enough to carry Luna. It had extended her lifespan to match Maxim's, ensuring they would have the time together that fate had tried to deny them. Luna stirred, making a small sound, and Daria felt her daughter's consciousness brush against both parents through their bond. Love, safety, home. We should go inside, Maxime said. Let you rest. In a moment, Daria leaned into him, watching the sun sink below the horizon. I just want to remember this. All of us together, alive and whole, with nothing but future ahead of us. Maxime pressed a kiss to her temple, the first of many such moments. And as the last light faded and the first stars appeared, Daria felt the truth of his words settle into her bones. They had faced death and prophecy and impossible odds. They had transformed curses into blessings, weakness into strength, fear into love. They had won, and their story, the Alpha King who had traded decades to save his mate, the she-wolf who had evolved to survive the impossible, and the pup whose power had been mistaken for destruction when it was really salvation, was only beginning.